All right, hello and welcome to the Survivor Maryland Winner Take All, episode 14, live after show. I'm Anders, your host, your editor, your everything above and beyond. Here joining me as always is my lovely co-host, Erin. Happy Pride, how are you?
Happy Pride, Anders, and I am proud to be on the Maryland podcast today. No more threats of boycotting, no more anything like that. This hat came from a Walgreens. I was looking for party hats. They did not have any, so this is the best thing that I could find. But we are partying this evening, and I am super happy to be here, super pumped, could not be more excited for this show and this episode.
Erin literally messaged me uh, all caps how excited she was. She did a lap around her apartment after seeing this vote. I had a feeling you'd enjoy this episode. Rob, introduce yourself to everyone. Who are you? I can see in your background you've got some Maryland stuff and Boston, but ignoring that.
Oh yeah, my name's Rob, guys. I was the host of Survivor Maryland for seasons 19 and 20, which was just last year. So yeah, I'm excited to be here, talk about Survivor Maryland with you guys, because I mean, my seasons won't be coming out for years. So I guess all I could do is talk about these seasons right now.
I don't know. I mean, it's easy enough to edit. Let's go. Come on, Rob. Where are they? It's been a year since you finished. How is it not ready yet?
Dude, I'm not. You're good.
Oh, is it hard?
Yeah, I can't wait for like future exec boards to start bashing me about trying to get a season out and stuff like that, because I can only imagine what you went through.
When they're actively filming season 40.
You know what? If anyone wants to edit a season, you're welcome to do so. But enough about that. And then rejoining us, Erin's mom, the mother of Michigan, as she is known. Shelley, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation. I'm looking forward to talking about tonight's episode.
So this episode, what a crazy one, right? I mean, the vote itself being 4111 is already so funny. Imagine my surprise. It's 8 a.m. on like a Friday morning, and this is the result of Tribal. Let's just talk. How do we feel about the episode? Erin, I can only imagine what you have to say.
I mean, yeah, it was an amazing episode, and I think it was made so much better by the fact that like it wasn't necessarily set up that it was going to be Tony going to tribal. Like I did not go in knowing that that was going to happen. That is not necessarily what I thought was going to happen. So just kind of like getting blindsided as a viewer, but for something that you were really really rooting for is just such an amazing feeling. Yeah, so I obviously loved the outcome, and I think it was a great episode every step of the way. I think we really got to like see each individual's strategy showcased this episode in a way we maybe haven't in previous episodes, but I feel like each individual was able to kind of shine a little bit, and like you got to see a little bit more of each of like them and how they're playing this game on an individual basis, which I think was really cool and really great to see. So overall, I think the episode was like super well done. Obviously, super thrilled with the outcome. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about it and get into the nitty gritty.
Rob, Shelley, what were your thoughts on the episode, having less stake in it than Erin of the famous anti-Tony fan club?
Well, I was completely shocked, honestly. Going just like Erin going to tribal council, Tony was not on my radar whatsoever. Which honestly just goes to show you, like, one, how great of an editor Anders is, but like also like the
Wow.
strategy of like what the players are really doing like behind the scenes, right? And like, you know, just piggybacking off what Erin said, like you really got to see how they're like playing the game, viewing the game, but like really utilizing like their own relationships and just making sure that everyone is comfortable no matter like what the vote is going to end up being, because they want to make sure that like, you know, their relationships are still solid going into the next round. And honestly, it just gives me like butterflies on my stomach knowing that it was a 4-1-1 vote or 1-1-1 vote just because it was so chaotic.
Shelley, your thoughts?
All I can do is echo those same thoughts. I texted Erin right after I watched it with, I did not see that coming. I was also shocked and blindsided.
I mean, it is so funny that to me this is the perfect revenge for Eric. Eric got all three of the Majesta returnees who have betrayed him, bamboozled him, made him lose all of his allies. He made all of them vote a different way. Meanwhile, him and the returnees, who this whole time JS and Tony have been so afraid of, stuck together and voted out Tony. I mean, it's so funny. It is just, for a season-wide storyline, so funny for Eric to do this. And what's even funnier, Eric is the only one who knew what this vote would be. Which is why everyone else goes, wait, what? Why are there so many votes spread? So, I mean, let's just jump into everyone's individual games. We start the episode with Morgan being like, okay, weird for you guys to have betrayed us. Like, for Michaela? I would have voted out Michaela next. Whatever. Like, why do you guys care so much?
Oh yeah.
I mean, Morgan this episode.
Immediately after that tribal, Morgan's doing nothing but spitting facts. It was amazing. I was enjoying every minute of it.
I mean, what do we take about Morgan's game? It's been very quiet thus far, but consistent at least. And here she is remaining as consistent as ever.
Mm-hmm. She's playing with her people.
Yeah, and I mean, it's clearly paid off. Like, the consistency is what got her the legacy advantage from Michaela in the first place. And I think that the consistency is also what probably prevented Katie from voting Morgan out to get her hands on that legacy advantage in this tribal. Because I thought that was very well something Katie could have done. But I loved Morgan this episode. I think she was so funny. She said one of her early quotes was like, "Who is letting JS convince them of anything?" Which I thought was really funny. And then her like doing like the stickers on the call with the returnees, and everything like that. I think that Morgan's been very consistent. Like Mom said, she's playing with her people, and that's what she's gonna keep doing. Whether she's mad at you or not, you're still the only people that she's been able to work with historically. So it's like, did you just betray her, and did you just like, and I love, we'll talk about Doug later, but I loved finding out that Doug did also tip off Katie about the vote, but not Morgan still. And that everybody was just like, we'll just blindside Morgan, and that's totally fine.
Doug, Eric, Tony all told Katie about the vote. Morgan, nothing.
No, but that's the thing, is because I think that they knew that the outcome would be would be what it was, which was that Morgan's still going to work with them on the other side of this, because they're who she's been working with. Like, what is she going to do? Go run to JS and Sam? I don't think so. So I think that they still made the right call, and she still stayed consistent and stayed in and did what she had to do.
Definitely. I mean, it's almost like she's like not like stuck working those relationships, but like those are the ones that she is going to continue like really focusing on and just making sure that like she has those locked up, because that other side, I don't really see them really working with her at this point of the game, unless she really just wants to like really put a foot out there and like try to just change the game for like her benefit. But at the end of the day, like, you know, like there are 4 returners right after that vote. So it's like, how can you not just try to like gather that group up and try to like go in that direction, especially if like, you know, they're the people that she's been working with.
And the fact that like when Tony was laying out like who are the potential targets this round, it's just me, JS, or Morgan. Like, we can't do anybody else. We can't go after anybody else. So it's like, the only, like, they're trying to tell Eric, like, hey, you're at the bottom of the returnees. But in actuality, even they're sitting there being like, no, we can actually only go after Morgan. Like, that's our only option.
And I think there's a beauty to Morgan, just sort of, she's going to stay where she is, but she will complain about it and she'll bitch about it. And I love Eric's thing. Morgan has these little things she holds on to. I think they're called grudges.
That was so good.
Because that is very Morgan. I mean, like, she still has a grudge against Doug, but she's not going to act on it. She's not stupid. She's not going to let that. She's not an emotional player, but she will tell you why she hates you. Speaking just of people with maybe more subtle games, but a funny moment in the beginning, I want to talk a little bit about Sam, our queen of trivia. Doesn't remember who Sabrina is just sort of around. What's our take on Sam? I want to save the JS, Tonys, Katie's, and Doug's and Eric's for after. What's our take on Sam in this episode and in this game?
My favorite Sam moment was right after Tribal, early in the episode, when JS said, well, I don't feel bad about it. She said, you never feel bad until the week after when we vote you out.
When you're
begging for us not to vote you out.
Not to vote you out, yeah.
Which is what he does every week.
So funny. That was a good one. I appreciated that.
Yeah, and then Sam was I loved Sam this episode in the challenge. She was so fucking funny. Like, yeah, just screaming like, "Who is Sabrina?" Like, clearly you weren't here long enough for me to care about you or to matter at all. And I was like, how far do they have to make it in the game for them to matter to Sam though? That's the real question. Because there are for sure people who made it well into the merge that Sam does not know nor care about.
And that's the answer. Pretty far into the game. Remember, your numbers 1, 2, 3, and Jess.
Yeah. I genuinely think it's at this point in the game. Now, I don't know if it was Final 6 or Final 7, but now we're at a point in the game where I think Sam might know everybody's names. And
She
care
knew
about
them. She knew them at the merge. All right, she knew all of them at the merge.
She didn't know that Fish's name was Dylan.
Okay, but she learned at a
She
certain
didn't know
point.
Andrew's name either.
You're right. No, she did not know Andrew's name. All right, it took until the fish vote, and then she knows everyone's name.
But she was great, yeah, and she was just kept up, her same game style, which is just I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. If that lines up with what other people are doing, great. If it doesn't, oh well. I know where I'm gonna be next week. And like that's what she's been doing. That's all she does. And like she had a moment this episode because everybody is asking themselves like who is Sam with? Like who has Sam? Who is she like following? Whatever. It's the real answer. This whole game has been nobody. She's following herself. She's doing her own thing. Nobody owns Sam. Like it was, super condescending when, Miranda left and Tony's like, well, now I inherited Sam or like whatever. And it's like, okay, that's not true. And clearly, which we noticed in this vote, where Sam did not vote with either Tony or JS or anybody else.
For
But
that,
she is in everyone's final 3 plan though.
I will say that like her voting for Morgan was a part of the plan. Like that was something she and Tony and Eric coordinated.
Yeah,
but
for
it
sure.
is funny that inevitably is just like great. So it just goes to show like, oh, no one's with JS.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And Sam even said it. She was like, yeah, at this point in the game, like I can take JS or I can leave him pretty much. She was like, if he stays, then fine. If he goes, then great. Like
there's also, I believe, a moment where JS like, we're gonna get rid of Katie, and Sam's like, I like Katie. I really like Katie.
I spot in my heart for Katie. Why? Because she's Katie.
Which is fair and real and reasonable.
Yeah.
I did have a note of Sam's character growth over the season is that now she is actually meeting with a group of people outside of stairwells.
That's right. It's just at 7:30 in the morning.
Yes. Character development, though. I made a note.
So, Rob, what's your take on Sam?
Honestly, I really thought this would be the episode where she would like find her little group, like with like the Majestic people and like really like work with JS and Tony and Eric. But then of course the plan is bamboozled and no one votes the way she votes. So of course she's just going to revert to like continuing on just like trusting herself and only doing what she wants to do. But she is so like comical to watch, like especially like in the challenge when you were like who's going to know the most answers? And she's like, oh, I don't know like a damn thing right now. It has me cracking up every single time we get like a little clip out of her,
I think Sam and Morgan are both the kind of characters where they're consistent and they're funny and they know they're going to be there. Like they're not the big target. So let me just exit. I mean, Eric puts it great. There are 4 shields and 3 people hiding behind those shields. Morgan and Sam are 2 of the not shields in this game. So they're like, well, look, whatever. It's going to be one of you 4. I'll vote how I vote and play how it play. I'll be here next week.
mm-hmm.
Someone just asked, out of curiosity, what question did Sam get wrong? The answer is all of them except for 2. There were 30 questions and she got 2 right. So I don't know how many times she went up and got it wrong, but theoretically every single time. Which question did she get right? Who knows? It doesn't matter. She definitely got the one where it asked, who were the 2 people who did the cube on day 1?
Yeah,
because
she was
half
one
of that answer.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what the other one was. Let's talk a little about our winner of the challenge, Doug. Last time you were here, Shelley, we talked a bit about Doug's number 1 is himself, and like his allies are his allies until he doesn't need them anymore. And
That's right.
JS was at that moment when we talked about him last time. Oh, JS is his number one. He trusts him. And here we see the end of that road, which is JS was useful. He kept Doug in the game. He gave him information. And now Doug has the numbers. He doesn't need JS. Therefore, he doesn't actually care about keeping JS around. Because his real number one is Katie. So what's our take on Doug's gameplay and Doug at the final 6 again? No idols this time though. No 3 idols.
I've been enjoying watching Doug again and seeing him very well adapt his gameplay from last season where he was completely in control, and this season where he knows that he's behind the 8 ball most of the time. And now that he isn't, I'm looking forward to seeing how the king stays king.
That's
I
definitely
guess.
true. Only because, honestly, like when Doug and Eric like talk with each other, and then they're like, okay, like when we go into like meeting with Morgan and Katie, like we'll let them throw out the name, which is very different from Doug. You know, just like letting them have the agency. So then it's like, okay, like we're making sure that like we're not the ones driving the vote, because he wants to make sure that like he has those connections and that people actually want to work with him, that they don't feel like they're just being used by Doug in this game.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we know I'm the number one Doug fan. And I did love the King Stays King, I guess. He said he goes, the King Stays King, I guess. I did get a little emotional, I'm not gonna lie, when he was talking about like being like one of the greatest, Maryland players or like Survivor players, and I was like, yes, Doug, like you deserve it. So I thought that was really sweet. But yeah, I was really, like I said, I was super happy to find out that Doug had given Katie the heads up beforehand, before the Michaela vote, because like when I was here last week, I was like, that was Doug's like one misstep that I've seen from him this game, was like not bringing that up to Katie. So now that I know that he's done that, I was like, okay, we're back to 0 missteps from Doug, and we absolutely love to see it. So that was really great. And I think that, yeah, he did a really good job of kind of like, I think he did reveal himself a little too much to Eric last week, of like with that wishy-washiness, and like did kind of like make him a little uncomfortable that way. But I think what's really interesting there is that both Doug and Eric think Katie is their number one. And Katie is each of their number one. But the question is, who does Katie prioritize there? So I think it's funny that they're both coming at it from that angle, while kind of like pretending to each other that they're like the actual number ones, and are still this was during Game Changers.
Yes, that's why he says King stays king. This happened a few weeks after Sandra says that. So, but continue. Yes, Doug
Yeah.
is Sandra in his own mind, despite not having won the first time.
But yeah, no. So I think that I love his relationship with Eric. I love that he's keeping that up, and I think he's done a really good job of like, yeah, continuing to insulate himself externally, and like making sure he's good with Katie and everything, and making sure like because he is a shield, but he is a shield that has shields as well. So he set himself up really well there. So yeah, I love Doug. I think that he's playing great. And I think that he's back to 0 missteps because of him giving Katie the heads up. So I continue to be very impressed with him. And I think that he genuinely is solidifying himself as one of the greatest college Survivor players of all time.
Who's to say? We haven't seen season 19 of Survivor Maryland, so impossible to say. Rob, what's your thought on Doug?
He's a guy I've loved rooting for ever since like I watched Major Conflict. So it is, I don't know, I guess there's like the idea of like how he is so strategic, right? So like because of that, like I guess I view Survivor like as a very strategic social game, and I love to live and watch for the strategy. So Doug is someone that I'm always just really like eyeing and like seeing like how are you going to approach this situation? Like what's your move? Like what are you thinking? So I don't know. I guess I'm just a Doug stan, honestly.
I think it is impressive for Doug to go from the very overwhelming, controlling game he played last season to one where he's had to lay low. He's had to allow others to make plans, be in control. And he finally gets that chance last week to be in the middle, be between alliances. He kind of, in a lot of ways, makes some mistakes with he doesn't choose a side until the very end. but now he is in the solid four. He is staying around. He's not in danger, and we finally see the real Doug come out of, okay, now that I have a plethora of alliances and allegiances, I actually don't need JS, and I find him kind of annoying. I find him to be a bit too much, and I would be okay with him going because he serves no purpose. I think Doug is very interesting, and I'm very glad that he is in the top 6 now. And Erin, I think that's a great point that he and Eric are both like, Katie is my number one. Queen stays queen truly of having all the number ones.
Exactly, yeah. And I did note that too, that yeah, Doug was like, I've used JS for everything I need him for. Like, and now I'm done with him. And I just want to say, proves my point of, and our point last time my mom was here when we were saying, like, yeah, Doug's not actually loyal to JS. He's loyal to himself. He's using JS, which clearly was true. And he did get everything he needed out of JS. Because now there is no other side that JS is like controlling or in on. So he doesn't need protection from him anymore.
Doug is much like some sort of blood-sucking parasite. He latched onto a host, he got the sustenance, and then leaves. He says, I've gotten what I need, and I'm done with you.
Yep.
And poor JS this episode. I mean, truly, JS this episode is just wrong. I don't think he's wrong in wanting Katie out. I think that is his best move. But he just has no idea where anyone else stands. He talks to Doug. Doug says, I don't need JS. He talks to Tony. Tony goes, no, I don't really want to work with JS. He talks to Eric, and Eric goes, I don't really want to do what JS wants. Like, get out, Katie. Okay. And then no one votes with him. And his whole Majesta thing. I mean, let's talk about JS this episode. McQuad again?
So from early on in the episode when he had his confessional, and he said that his strategy was continuing of, basically being rude to everybody and burning jury votes. And, he was just so proud that he was continuing this strategy, which I completely cannot get behind. But then it wasn't too far later on in the episode when he's like, I'm winning this game. And he said it, I think, twice. That he's like, I'm winning this game. And I thought to myself, how did you unburn those jury votes then? I don't understand. Where did that come from?
I mean, he said it himself. He was like, I might be burning jury votes, but I'll just figure that out when I get there, pretty much.
Exactly, he did.
He was like, I'll make it work at Final Tribal or whatever. And it's like, that's not really how that works, actually.
No, I know. I was like, so then he figured out how to unburn those? I didn't see that.
Look, once he gets rid of Katie, which he obviously will this episode, then he's just going to get to the end and unburn the jury vote.
Yeah, he's like, he said at this point, he was like, I'm actually locked into Final 3 now, and I'm locked into the win. Like, that's straight up. He said those words. I'm like, you cannot say that at Final 7 when this is so not going your way. And yeah, and listen, people can vouch for me. I have like defended and actually praised JS's gameplay the past few episodes. This episode, yeah, completely opposite. Completely, like, really a lot of missteps, a lot of just a lot of issues. And like all the way from like he said he was like, I don't want Doug out this round, but I don't want him to get his way. And I'm like, what is with people continuing with this strategy? Like, JS did not invent this strategy. Right, exactly. Exactly. I'm like, what do you think that's going to do for you moving forward? Like, if you want to keep working with Doug, maybe clue him into your plans. Maybe that'll help. And yeah, like going to Eric, trying to tell him he's at the bottom of the returnees, while like as we mentioned, like Morgan was still actually the only name from the returnees that was a possibility, because that's the only one that they might have been able to go for. Yeah, I think JS was just kind of a hot mess this episode in like having terrible reads, in not understanding what other people's motivations might be and what might be in the best interest of other people. He kind of had a little bit of Tony syndrome here, where he was like, they are doing what's in my best interest, or at least that's what they should be doing, and that's all he was focused on. And I feel like he has in the past like been pretty good about like helping people realize like this is why this is in your best interest. But like even the conversation he had with Eric, it wasn't necessarily framed in like this is what's best for you kind of way, or like at least it wasn't as convincing as it could have been. So I just don't think that he was as successful this episode in what he wanted to do, obviously. And that's obvious based on the result. But I think even the setup and even how he was approaching it, it just was not great.
Well, everybody at this point is tired of listening to him. They know he doesn't say anything genuine, that it's all BS. I mean, you can see it in Eric's face during their conversation when he's completely zoning out at some points, and he's like, "Oh, I'm back then."
Yeah.
I was
And
laughing
just
so
quit
hard.
it with the freaking note cards.
Oh
Like
my
I'm
goodness.
so sick of seeing all these people's names on note cards, and he's like, oh, and I put Eric's name on the purple note card to try and get into his head and make him think about Majesta. And it's like, okay, what? You took one psychology class, and now you're like, oh, look at me.
He's just thinking to himself how he's like, oh, like I'm the person who's so manipulating. Because I think he said that like right after that moment too. 'Cause he just thinks that he's in the heads of all of these players, and he knows that like he's going to get to the end of this game just because he sees it unfolding in his head. But like, it just wasn't the right execution, just like what you said, Erin.
Yeah. And Morgan said it in this episode too. She was like, JS thinks he's great at manipulating people, but he's also very easy to manipulate when you know what buttons to push. Which with JS, he's very clear about what buttons to push.
And I think it's a great point too about like JS gets ahead of himself. We've talked about like he's brought up the 7 steps ahead, and there is that issue of sometimes you look too far into the future without recognizing what the current situation is. He saw Tony, Eric, Sam all voted with me last round. If they vote with me again, I mean, it makes sense. Eric wants to go to the end. He can't beat Katie, Doug, or Morgan, so he'll work with me and it'll be great. And then I'll have control over who goes there. And it's this lack of awareness of how maybe they're feeling with each other, about what Eric really wants. And also, it's we see that JS thinks he can just unburn jury votes in the same way he can unburn the social issues of before. Eric did not like JS for a large portion of the game. He votes with JS once to get rid of Michaela and thinks, oh, Eric's going to vote with me again, forgetting and bringing up multiple times this episode. Remember when we almost took your mutiny? LOL. It's like, JS,
Yeah.
if I want you to work with me, I'm not going to bring up, remember that awful time where I betrayed you the most in this game. I'd be like, I do remember, and that's why I'm absolutely betraying you this episode. What do you mean?
Yeah. And just like at tribal when he was sitting there saying like I'm pretty much a returnee now, like you can count me in with the returnees. When he's sitting there thinking Katie's going home and he's voting Katie out, I'm like, okay, so you're still on your bullshit of like pissing people off on their way out. Like great call. It just just so done, dude.
But I mean, he wasn't wrong in wanting to target Katie. I think
Mm-mm.
whereas everyone else was very sold upon it's either Tony or Morgan, JS was going, let's make a big move. Katie is a threat to me. I feel like she's going to want me out, and she's a shield not for me, so bye-bye, Katie. It's too bad he was selling it to Katie's number one and Katie's best friend from 3rd grade, and then Katie's number one fan, Sam, because there just was no pushing in that regard.
Agreed.
But let's talk about Tony, our other former McQuad member who goes home, much to his surprise and some others. Erin, what was your take on Tony this episode? I know you're a huge Tony fan, so I can only imagine the pain.
Yeah. I know. I've been devastated this whole day. No, I mean, I don't think Tony played this episode poorly, honestly. I don't think that him going home was a result of anything he necessarily did this episode. I think it was just a result of threat level assessment, and Katie deciding that she was ready to be done with him, or like could be done with him pretty much. And I think that's what did him in. I genuinely don't think it was anything that he did. Like I think that he had every reason to think that he had a good relationship with Eric. Obviously had every reason to think that he had a good relationship with Katie. Um I will say, like, still being hypocritical and saying, like, I've never done anything to Doug. I don't know why he would ever want to target me, like, blah, 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 when that is so clearly not true. But, yeah, I don't think he had any reason to necessarily be super worried this round. And I think that he played it just fine in, like, having his conversations and, like, honestly, seemingly working in tandem with Eric. And like huge props to Eric for like playing up that relationship and like convincing Tony that they were like in lockstep because Tony really trusted him. So I feel like that was a very big reason of it. And he had the right read that like the only names that would have been options this week are him, JS, or Morgan. Like that was the correct read there. So I don't necessarily fault Tony for how he played this round at all. I fault him for a lot of other things.
Look, gun to your head, if you had to find 7 faults for Tony, I'm sure you could figure it out.
I certainly could. However, I don't think that his gameplay or his strategy this round were necessarily bad. I think it just came down to threat level assessment and actual like he has a lot of friends on that jury, whereas JS has a
We'll
lot of
make all those
enemies.
friends back at Final Fight.
Obviously, yes, exactly.
Rob, are
But-
you about to say something?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely just came down to his circumstance with the options that they had left. And honestly, I thought he did a pretty good job too of trying to just like build those connections to try to like keep him in that game just a little bit longer. Because all he really needed was one more week. And if like he had that group going into final 6, like there was a good chance of him making it just like one step further. And that's all he really needed to do at the end of the day. It just, you can't ignore the fact that he has so many friends on that jury and that he is a threat because of that.
Yeah,
And-
I don't think that Tony ever would have seen Katie turning on him coming. Like that just wasn't gonna be in his calculation, and that's all it was right then and there.
I mean, I think you guys bring up basically the same reasons of why Tony is a bigger threat. He does have more allies than JS, which is already just asking, does he have one ally? But he definitely has at least 2. Tony is just a more competent player to the rest of them in the game than JS. He's also better at competitions. Whether or not we believe JS is throwing every challenge that he seemingly loses, remember,
he didn't bring up throwing challenges this episode. He didn't say that he threw this one.
I'm sure there is a confessional of him saying he did throw it, but I just didn't include it. Hey, I'm sure if you ever ask, hey, did you lose this challenge on purpose? He'll go, yes, master plan.
Yeah, true.
Tony was very close to winning this challenge. He was right behind Doug.
I was so scared.
Erin was going, no, don't get that question right.
Every time he fucking cheered when he got another one, he was like, 16, I'm at 16. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Do you hear anybody else doing that? Like, get over it. Just be like, shut up.
You didn't
Tony,
want to hear all of his lucky guesses?
he had a lot of lucky guesses. He almost won that, but he has won immunity before. He is very good at the competitions. And I think, if you are just getting rid of Tony and JS back to back, knowing what you can see, not what they say in their confessional, I feel like Tony is the more risky person to keep around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, would anyone here feel differently? Like, does anyone here go, I would have gone for JS personally?
No.
I think the one argument you can make for going after JS is that he is just very chaotic in a way, right? But I guess you don't always see that just from the player perspective, because we just get to know more of that personality out of him, like within the confessionals, which maybe would just be a reason why one of the viewers might say that more,
But I also feel like if you're in this game, you're in the 4 returnees, you see JS and you go, I'm not going to work with him. I don't want him around. Like, at worst, Sam has a better chance of staying around. JS is like, I'm killing JS next round. Like, that's just it. It seems like such an obvious answer. We do have also, this is a good point. Hi, Jack. A big part of this is the Katie situation. There's a couple things. The number is telling Katie oh yeah, if an idol is played, it might go on to you. But see, that's a risk I'm willing to take. Some of you may die, but that's a risk I'm willing to, very far caught of him. Um, but also
I've
the
often
whole
compared Tony to Lord Farquaad. Yeah.
same height. But it's that, and then the whole situation with telling someone, "I want you at Final Four, but not at the end." Like Katie knows Tony does not want her at the end, and it's like, what difference? As has been said, what's the difference between second place and 20th place? Not more effort and more time, but it's ultimately not winning. So if someone's not going to take you to the end, why are you taking them further?
Mm-hmm.
True.
Yeah. That was the only reason, like, the only reason I could kind of see, like, when they all got on call, when all the returnees got on call right before tribal and they were like, let's figure out what we're doing. I was like, okay. So they are actually deciding between Tony and JS right now. And Katie's confessional of saying, like, Tony has a bunch of friends on the jury. He actually does. Like, he is good at challenges. But he is also taking me to Final Four. But I think at this point in the game, we're at a point where Katie also sees that Doug is taking her to Final Four, and Eric is taking her to Final Four, and Morgan is taking her to Final Four. So does she really need Tony to do that anymore? And all of these people also probably taking her to Final Three. So yeah, I feel like she just was like, I don't want to play with you anymore.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
Kate said, I know at the end of the day you don't want me around.
Yeah.
I also, real quick, while Jack is here, there's a moment that makes me laugh every time at Tribal. It's a reaction she has while she's watching. She goes, like she does that, and I'm like, okay, literally mothering right now. It's 8 a.m. and she's going, I was going home. It's
You
like,
could feel the 8 a.m. at that tribal. Like, you could feel it. These people were tired.
I mean,
you can tell
Eric
because
was
no one's
trying to light
screaming.
himself on
Yeah.
fire to stay awake.
Yes,
So.
Eric was touching the fire. No, love Jack. She was serving it the entire time. I was losing my mind.
Absolutely is.
No, I mean, I don't think Tony played badly either. It's just, well, I don't think he did anything that earned him the loss this episode, but I think his game in total. I mean,
Oh, well, yeah. Well, yeah.
yeah, but let's talk. Also, let's bring it up. There are now 2 newbies left, and it's JS and Sam.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought those 2 made it the furthest of the newbies?
Well, JS probably did think that he would be with Sam at the end.
Well, JS, of course, day 1 knew he would be at the end. He would be able to burn and then unburn every jury vote. Sam
And
would
Sam
be
has always
protege.
known where she's going to be tomorrow. So
Mhm.
truly, we should have seen this coming.
Other people, not for long.
Not for long.
Let's talk about Katie. I mean, Katie is truly. She's not doing a whole lot in the game of like big active moves, but she is involved. There's not a single move made in this game that is not made without a relationship to Katie. Some consideration of what is best for her or worse for her. What are all of our thoughts on Katie?
I mean, I think if you have Doug of all people saying, well, if I lose to Katie, then that happens. Then
I think
that tells you a lot.
I think that also comes with Doug getting second last season. I feel like he would not have that attitude had he won last season or like gotten anything else. But like coming in second and like so recently, you have to think to yourself, like, that could happen to me again. It doesn't matter who you're up against. It doesn't matter like anything. You just have to go in thinking like I played the best game last time and I got second. So you have to go in like kind of it just as somebody who's gotten second, and Anders knows this, it kind of
Getting second? Never, but go on.
but it just kind of like it kind of eats at you of like it hits you in a way of like I can do everything I need to do and still not be good enough. And like once you've had that happen to you, it's so much like if this happens again, I need to be okay with whoever is beating me. And I could totally see that from Doug of like he just got second. I'm sure he was like of all of the people on that cast, I'm sure he was happy it was Tasanti of all people. And so now he's got to go in and think to himself like if this happens to me again, at least it's to Katie.
Not the Tim hatred.
He didn't get second. looking at Tim.
Yeah, but you're saying of all people, I'm sure he's glad it was Santi.
Yeah, and I stand by it.
Can you imagine you just play like a 90-day game and you get second? You come back, you go a full 90 days again and still get second. That is the thought of that is making me laugh.
Yeah.
That would
Not
be
that it
brutal.
doesn't happen, but it's still funny to me. Rob, what are your thoughts on Doug?
On Doug.
Sorry, Katie. Sorry,
yeah.
going back to a winner, not a second placer.
Honestly, I mean, I love the game that she's playing. She's able to get so much information from a variety of different sources. And like you guys are saying, like there is nothing that happens that she doesn't know. So it's just really cool to see her like almost like control and like navigate from like the back of like the car, you know, just to be able to like voice her opinions, but then just make sure that like, you know, like the others are like cluing her in every single vote.
Yeah, that was crazy to me of like, yeah, and then finding out that Doug did tip her off too. Like, yeah, she has all of the information coming from all of these avenues. And and especially now she's like she gets this information from Tony of like, hey, you are the vote. And what's funniest to me is because I don't know that this played into the vote. Maybe because it made her feel like disposable to Tony of like if an idol is played, your name is out there while she's sitting there with the idol in her pocket, knowing full well it's not going to be played. So I feel like that couldn't have necessarily factored in. It wasn't like it obviously if it did, it wasn't any sort of fear of like I might be going home, I need to flip this vote or anything like that. It might have been like Jack said, it might have been because he just made her feel disposable of like he doesn't actually care about her. And like it did take Eric kind of coming to Tony and being like, we can make Morgan a backup plan in case an idol is played. So I don't know. But yeah, obviously Katie has had a stranglehold on this game the entire time. She continues to. And I genuinely believe that if she wasn't ready to let Tony go this round, he wouldn't have gone and it would have been JS. But because she felt ready, be it how Tony approached that or anything like that, just like that she decided she didn't need him anymore, she is the reason ultimately that Tony went home. She would have been the deciding factor in Tony staying or going here.
Yeah. No, I'm in awe of Katie's game. She's doing everything right. And if she's in the final three, I cannot see how she doesn't win.
This is also a really good point about like Katie can't be, Eric can make big moves because it's Eric and like people already consider him like he has said it himself like, oh, I will never win this game. But if Katie makes any move, people will go, oh, that's Katie, we got to get rid of her. But I think all of us can agree like she is not doing nothing. It's just she's not being the loudest person in the room. She's not trying to draw attention. She has this idol, has not said anything to anyone, has never considered even bringing it up, playing it, because she needs it. And she's always aware that she is the biggest target, her or Doug. But yeah, it's great. And this comment about me doing the Jack Jury pose, it's true. I'll just do it to myself. Let's talk about the man of the week, Eric Egg Roll. I mean, this is, I think, such a good showcase of his skill in this game. A week where he was given all the information, he played everyone against each other, and even more importantly, you have these moments where Tony is bringing up a plan and he goes, "This is great. Tony's coming up with a plan. I don't even need to suggest anything, and it's his plan. All the credit goes to him." I mean, it's beautiful. Eggroll plays everyone who thought he was so dumb, so gullible, so easy perfectly.
Yeah, I was actually really offended on Eric's behalf when both like Tony and JS were talking about him like he was so low of a threat, like that nobody would ever be targeting him, like Morgan would be the threat over him. I was like, what? Who are you watching? I don't understand this take. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, I would hope that there's kind of a tier system where it's not just like your shields and your non-shields, as Eric was saying, and like your shields and your people hiding behind them. I'd like to think there's like some middle tier where Eric lands, because I don't necessarily want to group him in with Sam and Morgan. No offense to the ladies, I love them dearly, but I do think Eric, yeah, Eric really has been showing his chops recently and like has been playing super well. Like I said, I think that the way he managed his relationship with Tony, like going to Tony rounds before and like building that relationship and saying like, "Listen, I want us to work together." Like it sets him up to be able to do something like this now and to be able to control those votes of Tony and Sam and being like, "Okay, we're going to come up with a split on JS and Morgan." Not just controlling votes, making them look all disorganized, also protecting Katie, his number one. Like he's done an incredible job of like building up these relationships and like setting himself up to do what he wants to do and make it to the end. And like yeah, have good relationships and like get people to just do what he wants and feel good about it and feel like like he knows how as I think that him and Katie both do such a good job of managing people where Katie knows how to talk to people. She knows how to approach people. She knows how to like get people to do what she wants. Eric knows how to do that by kind of being like a sponge, being a mirror. He knows how to listen. He knows how to like understand people and like get their like so subtly get them to do what he wants to do. And like in a way where they think it's their idea. Like I feel like with Katie people still know that like they're doing what Katie wants to do. But with Eric, they don't know that they're doing what Eric wants to do. They think that they're doing what they want to do because Eric has convinced them that's what is best for them.
There is this cast has a lot of people who are very big talkers. They love to talk. And Eric, I think, learns a lot from Doug in the way of listening to people, letting them say a plan, and just sort of allowing them to make the plan, believe you're in on it, and not really say anything, not really give confirmation. Because yeah, you're right. Like JS feels like the conversations with Eric are good because JS gets to talk a lot, and then Eric will say what he's thinking, which is usually, yeah, okay, I can see that logic. Yeah, I'd probably take you a little bit further. And it's like, wow, okay, me and Eric literally are final two. McQuad is back. Majestic forever. Rob, how do you feel that Eric?
I love the game that he's playing. He was someone that I was super excited to see come back and play again for this season because I didn't think he got like, his full shot at playing in major conflict. And I think he's been playing a beautiful middle game. And I think that was extremely apparent in this episode. So honestly, I'm excited to see like where he goes in the future too. Just like how he navigates, like, like maybe the just like the animosity he might feel from like leaving out like Sam and JS like from the last vote, because like he might just like, I mean, that's just something he was gonna have to deal with, especially like as someone as like chaotic JS is, like that could be like ammunition for him to throw Eric under the bus.
He also had some of the funniest quotes of the episode too. I loved when he and Doug were talking about how are we going to get back in with the girls, after we blindsided them. And Eric's like, please take us back. We'll sleep on the couch.
So many marriage references this season.
Yeah.
A lot of marriage, especially with Katie.
I mean, wouldn't we all?
And you know what's so funny? So I was at a wedding recently with Katie. We weren't getting married. Sorry. Katie does do this thing where like she will talk to literally anyone about anything, and she's just so magnetic about it. And it's not just a survivor skill, but watching her do it in real life with no like, oh, we have to play a game. You just go, damn, no wonder she's so good at this game. She's talking to this stranger. He is an uncle to someone else, and they're getting along. She'll be referencing him later to you, and you're like, wow, Katie's incredible. Anyways, back to Eric. Back to one of Katie's husbands.
I think Eric would be proud that we took a brief break to talk about how wonderful Katie is. I think he'd be fully okay with that.
He also, walking into Tribal, I do love doing crazy evil things.
I think it's going back to the Doug quote a few weeks ago. It's like, Eric loves to say, I love to be evil. Doug talks about being a villain. But compared to the villainy of this season, it's heroic. Eric may be doing
Oh,
something
yeah.
chaotic and evil, but all of us are going, no, we love this. Thank you, Eric.
Well,
Thank
he
you,
also,
Eric. Please more.
One of my favorite things about Eric is that he's just always smiling. In every confessional, like he's always got a smile on his face. He's just like, he's just the cutest.
but he also knows he's not really being a villain because he sees that in JS and he says, I don't want to lose to a villain.
Oh, yes, the great quote about JS is a really good villain.
The
And I
perfect
do
villain,
the
he
perfect
said.
I mean, well, do we agree with that? I'm sure, as Aaron would put it, Tony is awful. He's unlikable. Blah 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 blah. JS is similar but different. Who of those two is the better villain? Not the bigger, but the better.
I will give this one to JS, personally. I know we had the whole conversation last week about like, are you an asshole on purpose or are you an asshole because you're an asshole? I think if you're a good survivor villain, you're doing it on purpose. And I think that JS came into the season with the intention of being a villain. And I think that he is doing that and he's doing it well. But I think what's funny is the fact that he thought that that was going to get him the win and get him a lot of respect. And it's very much not. So I don't know if the perfect villain is the best way to put it because I feel like the perfect villain wins at the end and does gain that respect.
I think it's hard to say what a perfect villain is, though, because it's going to be very dependent on the jury that you're trying to argue your case to. I mean, a jury that doesn't respect your attitude, regardless of how well you played the game, is not going to be one that rewards you with the win.
People remember how you treat them and like the feelings that like carried away, right? So like it's going to be imperative for every single player, like going like whoever is like in the final three to like just like manage those emotions that people just feel towards you, right? And I've seen crazier winners in my history of just being in Survivor Maryland from seasons 17 to 20. So like, you know, like you really don't know like how the jury is going to react and think, because it's not just like CBS Survivor where you are like secluded from everyone like on the island, like on Ponderosa and like those playing, like you are still like actively like hanging out with these people, like going to the bar and doing all these things because you're living that college life, right? So there is like a great aspect. So like I do think that like I am on the side that JS is like the perfect villain, but that I don't think that necessarily means that like you just have to like say that like he can't win, because you really don't know how the jury is going to react at the end of the game.
I will say we have some insight in that we have jurors quite literally flipping him off, saying, I hate JS, saying all of this shit. He won. Who do you not want to talk to after the season?
Look, I don't think there's an argument. Do these jurors dislike JS? I think. Well, here's how I view it, and I know this isn't Survivor, but it is Total Drama Island. JS is a Heather. He is very much Heather. Like
Yeah.
he votes people out. He is a total villain about it. Like he relishes in them hating him and like having this big fight, having this big drama. Now, the spoilers for season 1 of Total Drama Island. It doesn't work out for Heather, but in my mind, someone who is totally uncaring about like, oh, will this be perceived well, and just plays the game to that degree of being a villain, like I think that is so funny. Not admirable, but very funny to do.
As
And
long as nobody gets Lashawnaed, we'll be fine.
well, we're not at Final 5 yet, so impossible to say who the Lashana is. But like there is something to say about JS is burning jury votes. He is unapologetic about, well, that's not true. I guess he does apologize after someone says, you're not sorry. And then he goes, okay, I'm sorry. Anyways, bye. Like there is something so perfect about the way that he plays the villain role, because he is playing the role as opposed to, you know, Tony, who does feel those emotions very clearly, or like Sam, who gets in someone's face about something, or Miranda, or any of them. JS is playing a character. And
Yeah.
I think I love that. I do love Eric being like, he's the perfect villain. I don't want him to be here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it wasn't even just that, like, I don't want to lose to that. It was like, I don't want to reward that. And like Eric said at the top of this episode, like, I would have rather seen JS go last week, because Eric is like, I'm sick of this. like actually getting him further in the game, which is fair. It's a fair thing to be sick of. I'm sick of it too. But unfortunately, because he is such a big villain, he is easier to take further because nobody's going to work with him. So he is that, like, you can get him out at any time kind of person.
And I think he is banking on that. At the end, people will just see the game that he's played and that he's, been putting this show on so to get to where he is. And, you have to reward somebody for playing a good game. But the thing is, people don't necessarily reward you for playing a good game.
Not if you're an
Famously,
asshole.
famously in College Survivor, sometimes the better game is not rewarded. And that's, I think it is the point that Rob brings up and that we've all experienced, or experienced through someone else, of the like, it is not, you're secluded. Like, you will see this person more and more. You will have deeper feelings on it, even though it's for no money. So it's like, despite this person playing a better game, you don't like them or you don't want them to win, and they're not going to get the votes. So I think, to Rob's point, people remember how you make them feel. And JS could just as easily get to the final three, have the best speech in the world, and they could just be like, no, you were an asshole to me as I got voted out. I'm not going to give you a vote. Like, if you wanted my vote, you should have said nothing. And yes, I mean, Doug is. I don't agree that Santi played a bad game. Look, I'll go to my grave believing that Santi played a winning game. And you know what? The jury agreed with me. So I guess it's actually you who's wrong. But no, I mean, Doug played a great game and still lost. So, I mean, next week we're at the final six with Katie, Morgan, Doug, and Eric, and then JS and Sam. Which, what an insane final six it is.
Yeah.
Imagine going into the merge, 8 newbies, 5 returnees. 4 of those returnees are still there, and only 2 of the newbies are. Feluke is also a great example of. That was what I was thinking about. So, I mean, we're at the final 6 with these 4 returnees. We have JS recognizing his position. What do we think is going to happen for the rest of the season? Like, do we think we've only got 2 episodes left, final 6, and then the finale? I mean, who do we think is making it to finale? Who do we think is going on final 6? And who do we think is the final 3?
Well, Morgan is safe next week because of the legacy.
Morgan has the legacy. Yes. So Morgan, well, she could always give it away to someone.
Only if she wins immunity, I think, would she do that.
She's already done it once this season.
Is Final 5 the last time you can use an idol?
Yes. Okay. And there is no game changer or anything that gives them an idol at Final 4. No. I'm an old school believer of someone gets voted out at Final 4. So unless there's a tie. But no fire making automatically.
So unless if Katie doesn't have to use her idol next week, then she's going to get to Final 4.
Maybe. We've seen this season of Survivor on CBS. Having an idol doesn't mean you're going to play it.
I think it's the last time you can play it. I would fucking hope so. That's what we've seen on this season of CBS, is people trying to hold out for the last time you can play it.
Look, but how impressive is it if you can go to Final Tribal and say, I had an idol this whole time and I never needed to play it?
It's only impressive if you're Marianne.
Or if you're Doug and you have all of them.
Or that.
I had 8 idols and I never played them. Remember when I almost went home? Who do we think is going out at 6? It can't be Morgan.
No, it cannot be Morgan.
All of you frothing at the mouth, hoping that Morgan goes home. She won't, all right? She's making finale.
I think JS goes out unless he wins immunity.
You don't think there's a chance someone wants to save JS?
No, I don't think so.
I agree with that. And
I feel like no, you go, Erin.
Oh, I was just gonna say I love imagining a world in which JS is so mad that he just missed the finale episode.
Well, he'll be in it.
I know, but like as a player, something in me kind of relishes in that thought. But we'll see.
I feel like 6 people left is a perfect opportunity for like a group of 4 returners to start going after each other too. So like whichever returners like truly feel like they're on the bottom, like they got to pick up like the loose scraps of those on the bottom and really use them to their advantage, because this is like the point of the game that's going to make or break like the final 3, like your end game, right? So I think you got to really start like reading into those relationships and figure out like who's genuinely like going to take me to the end, you know? So I don't really know who's going to be at that final 6. Like maybe whoever Sam really just like, hinges her vote on, people are going to be like, like I really just need someone to vote with this time. So like, shit, like I'm going to vote with Sam right now, so you don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like next episode, it won't just be an entire episode of me going, no, it's not going to be JS. It's going to be someone else. And then the vote is JS.
I could totally see, though, like, I feel like JS, and, like, that's why them voting out Tony here is also a big plus, is because JS is a good unifying factor to keep them from doing that. Because, like, yeah, if you want to go ahead and break apart from this group right now, you're going to need to pick up JS. You're going to need to work with JS. And is that really something you want to do? So I feel like it's kind of like a standing threat, which is really fun. Because it's so much easier to get down to Final 5 with the 4 returnees and Sam, and then you only need to swing Sam to your side.
Or get rid of Sam. Final 4 is all returnees.
And they'll definitely do that.
Yeah.
You're shaking your head, Shelley. You don't think you're taking Sam?
Oh, no, I'm for sure taking
Oh, sorry.
Sam's
You're
gonna
not
be
getting
in
rid
the
of Sam?
Final 3. Yeah. Nobody's cutting Sam. I don't care who you are. She's in everybody's Final 3 plan.
Why? She could win.
I don't
Wow,
even...
everyone here's a hater on Sam. You're all going to the bottom row. You don't think there's a chance that Sam could be a threat?
No.
Maybe Sam goes home next?
I mean, Sam's a threat in the way where like she takes a spot from someone else at the final 3, so that I think that's maybe the only threat level you really have to manage,
I cannot wait for Sam's final tribal speech. I really can't.
Well, we'll see what happens. Who do we think the final 3 is? All right, so we assume that it's likely JS that goes home next. I mean, or it could be something else. Wait an hour before you find out who it is. Who do we think is the final 3? It has to include at least one returner now.
I'm gonna put my money on a Katie, Eric, Sam final 3.
How much money?
All the money I have. $5.
Let me just really quick edit some things really quick.
I had $20 in my bank account and I spent 12 of it on this hat.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
For legal reasons, that is a joke.
Okay, sure. Shelley, who do you think is the final 3?
I think Erin is probably right. I could also see Katie, Morgan, and Sam.
All women at the end. Final 6, 3 women, 3 men. Girls Alliance, Girls Priority.
Girls Priority, which Sam has been a part of this whole time.
What's funny is, for all the Girls Alliances that have existed in the season, Sam's never been a part of one.
Nope.
She's only been part of one actual alliance, the Creepy Crawlers.
The realest one. And then, of course, New Majesta Alliance, New McQuad.
Oh, right.
And the final 5 of last episode, where they all got rid of Michaela and then immediately didn't work together again. Rob, who do you think is going to be final 3?
Right now I'm feeling really good about Eric's game. So I'm thinking the final 3 could be Eric, Sam, and Morgan.
That's what JS told him his dream would be.
That's your best game move. This is what you should do. No. Well, it sounds like Eric is making it, is what everyone's saying. Everyone's very confident about Eric making it to the end, except for Shelley, who thinks it'll be all women. So, or no, sorry. The thing you all had unifying was Sam. Never mind. Sounds like Sam's winning.
I don't know that we said that. Would I eat it
I
up?
didn't.
Absolutely.
Now, just something to think about. If Sam wins this season, how do you think she should be edited?
I don't see any world in which Sam is edited any different than how she has been. Because
Sounds like
yeah.
she's there with Katie, she's there with JS or Eric, and then she goes, huh, I know what I was doing this whole time. If you didn't, that's your fault. Everyone goes, Sam's winning.
Yeah.
Oh
You
yeah,
spelled-
sorry.
You spelled Andrew wrong, but yeah.
Andrew and Michaela come back. They both get to the end with Sam, and Sam beats them both.
Yes.
Sam goes, I didn't have to win a single competition. I didn't have to go to the edge. I never got any votes against me.
Sam's
Everyone
gonna
at this
be sitting there at Final Tribal and being like, you know where I'm gonna be tomorrow? Right here.
right here. The game's over. I'm coming back.
I'm sitting here tomorrow.
Oh, here's a good question. What are the chances of each player winning? So we have 6 players left. What do we think are the chances of each player winning if they got to the end? You have to sort of imagine a world where they get there. You have to kind of, yeah. There's going to be a lot of ifs, maybes, buts,
Oh,
and
yeah.
whens.
Yeah.
Shelley,
Yeah.
what do
I
you
was-
think?
Kind
I
of
was
ranking
thinking
them,
about
or
I
Well,
only
like,
have
for
there
each of
only-
the 6, what are the chances they could ever win this?
I think everyone has a chance except for Sam and JS.
You don't think JS could win if he's against like Sam and Morgan? You think?
No, I think Morgan wins if he's there with Sam and Sam, JS, Morgan, final 3. I think Morgan wins.
Who has a better chance than Morgan then? Everyone else.
Everybody else.
So if it's Doug, Katie, Eric at the final 3, who wins?
Katie.
Erin, what's your thought?
I think Katie has the best chance to win. If we're just assuming that they're there, I think Katie has the best chance to win. I think Doug and Eric are so close. I think it comes down to how Eric is able to argue it. I think each of them are a very close second. And I think if Eric comes at it with the confidence he had this episode and not the lack of confidence he's had in episodes before, then
In
he's
every
got a very
episode
good-
before, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Then he's got a better chance, maybe even than Doug. But otherwise, I think Doug has the edge on him because we all know Doug can talk.
But Eric actually has actions to hang a hat on too.
So does Doug. So does Doug. Every single episode, Doug says, I want one of these 2 people gone. Every episode, one of those 2 people goes home. And Doug has positioned himself as a major threat. I'll give Doug's speech right here and now. But I think that they're pretty neck and neck between Doug and Eric. I think if given the same confidence and speaking ability, I think Eric edges Doug out, if I'm being honest. Then I would say JS after that. I think in a JS Morgan Sam final 3, I think JS does win because while I think people like Jack, Miranda, and like Dylan are not going to vote for him, I think maybe some of these later jurors, I think like a Tony, I think a Katie, a Doug would vote for JS. So I think if that's the final 3, then I think that JS wins. Then Morgan, then Sam.
Rob, who do you think is going to? What's your ranking of them? What are their chances of winning?
Honestly, I think I'm aligned with Erin in this, where I do think it's Katie, Doug, and then just beneath Doug, Eric. And then I think I would put JS above Morgan and Sam just because he's probably had more, maybe not agency, but he's done a lot. And I think he has a lot to talk about at the final 3 if he were sitting next to like Sam and Morgan. And I think, I mean, players' feelings are totally going to come into like how people vote and everything like that. But I mean, Katie has the best chance of making it to the end. She's won once. If she gets to the end, like how can you not vote for someone to win a second time? I think that's why she probably has the best chance in my mind.
There was a discussion in the Discord of oh, did they know Katie was a winner? Like, how has she gotten so far? And it's like, Katie is the most known player coming into the season, is here at the final 6, still as a winner. And there was a little bit of discussion about like Edgic of it all and like Katie being too big of a person to even consider. You know, Katie was known as a target from day one. She's still here, and I think sometimes you got to just remember the game is the game, regardless of what we think should happen. They're here, all right? JS is still around. Everyone else that you loved and supported, gone. He got rid of them. Katie still here, even though she's such a big threat. Same with Doug. The biggest threats still around. I do think it's look. JS could win if every single person goes, never mind, we're not mad anymore. I mean, it's impossible to know what'll happen.
That is not what I said.
That's what you said, and you said you hope he wins, and you actually would love that.
I don't agree that that's what I said.
Well, next week is the final 6. Anything could happen, except for Morgan going home because she has the legacy. But anything could happen. So let's get some plugs. Oh, are there any other moments we want to talk about? We could talk about Doug mentioning, isn't it crazy I'm working with Eric? Look how much I've grown. Aren't I so impressive? And it is like,
and he's right.
It is. Remember when Eric, episode 2, was like, you should vote out Doug? And now it's like, they're working together.
Now they're besties.
Now they're besties.
I loved at the beginning when JS mentioned, or I think Morgan mentioned the creepy crawlies. And it was like, oh, you know about that? And JS was like, I told them about McQuad too. They hated the name. And I was like, taste, returnees, taste. Because I've been shitting on that name for 14 goddamn episodes of the show. So I'm glad that they felt the same way at the time. And then
I think the perfect name.
When you said it's day 73 and Sam goes, wow. I was like, so true, Sam.
Also, when Morgan goes, I think this answer is wrong. It's like, well, it isn't.
You're like, your answer is wrong, actually. Oh, and then Doug and somebody, when Doug and Eric are having a meeting and somebody goes, here you go, Doug and friend, and gives them chocolate-covered strawberries. I thought that was so cute. I was like, yes, Doug and his best friend.
Doug and friend. Well, that's it, calm. Last season was Doug and friends. This time it's Doug and friend.
He gets one friend this time.
I liked when JS during Tribal said it's never been a newbie versus returner game, and the look on Tony's face. It's like, what?
Look, JS is a returner now. I think that is so funny too. Of this whole game, it's been JS going newbie versus returner, and then now he's like, I actually am a returner in some ways. Oh, it's so funny.
Oh my god, when Morgan said JS and Tony are the same person, I thought that was so funny.
They're easy to push the buttons of. Yeah,
exactly.
Or that JS was so blindsided that he had no parting words for Tony.
True.
Oh yeah, JS shocked to see his name, thought he was done for. We also see in the next time, JS furious that everyone played him. Also I do love the Doug conversation with JS in the next time, which is, I think I'm gonna go home. I don't know. Like, not a supportive thing to say. And then Morgan's, he's such a weirdo. I'm gonna go get funnel cake. We'll find out what she means next week. But any other moments we want to talk about from this episode that tickled our fancy, that were funny, that were anger-inducing, that showed that Sam is winning?
I thought that I really enjoyed Katie talking in her one-on-one with you about her strategy of being perceived on the bottom. I thought was really good. I enjoyed that.
Anything to reduce that threat. All right, let's do some plugs. Rob, anything that you want to plug?
You guys should check out season 19 and season 20 of Survivor Maryland in 8 years. I think it's going to be really great. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. I also have a podcast with my buddy Tim where we talk about CBS Survivor. It's called Steal the Bacon.
Rob
So
has a
you guys should check it
podcast?
out.
Rob
A
does
little
have a
bit, right?
podcast.
That name's
He says, "Here from my bedroom, it's Rob has a podcast called Steal the Bacon."
But yeah, you guys should check that out if you have time.
I can't wait for 8 years from now, seasons 19 and 20, where I go, man, I can't believe. I can't name a single one. Matt Ryan, whoa, or was Marissa on one of them?
Yeah, she was on 20.
Marissa, whoa.
Or Bennett, who was on 2 weeks ago.
You're right, and Bennett
know.
was on. That's right. I did go to the 20 final tribal council, but man, what a crazy time. Anyways, Erin, what do you want to plug?
I'll just go ahead and plug a bunch of college survivors out there. You can go ahead and watch Scotty Survivor, watch Survivor San Diego. That's airing right now. Keep Your Torch Lit is covering that as well, which is the Survivor Michigan podcast. Watch Survivor Michigan seasons 1 through 5 on the Gen 1 channel and season 6 on the Gen 2 channel. Season 7 coming at you soon.
Oh my God. Every time one of you says that, all I can do is go, shut up. Get a job, one of ya.
Yeah, watch your local college survivor. Doesn't have to be local also. Watch them all.
And Shelley, anything you want to plug?
Actually, yeah. Once you've gotten all caught up on all college survivor, then there's some really great superhero entertainment coming out. Deadpool and Wolverine tickets go on sale tomorrow for their July 26th release. The Boys season 4 starts June 13 on Prime. My Adventures with Superman starts on Adult Swim on May 25th. Batman Caped Crusader August 1st on Prime. And X-Men 97 on all episodes are now out on Disney Plus. All of it's going to be really good. X-Men 97 was really good.
Wow, there's so much superhero media.
I know there is.
That's crazy.
Also, go to your local Walgreens and see if they have this hat.
And get a fun little hat. Why
Get
not?
a fun little hat.
Everyone should have a fun little hat. Do you have a fun little hat, Rob?
I think I got to go to Walgreens and go get one, honestly.
Well, is there a vodcast version of Steal the Bacon, or is it just audio?
We're starting to upload to YouTube, so hopefully it'll be out soon.
So then if there isn't a little hat in it, I'm going to be pissed on the next episode that you guys do. Yeah, what are you going to do on the off season once CBS Survivor is over?
I mean, a lot of that's in the works right now. We have a lot of connections to CBS players, so hopefully we'll get them on the podcast. I mean, maybe we could bring on some Survivor Maryland hosts and everything too. Talk about College Survivor is like its own little segment. But yeah, we have a lot of ideas in the works.
Well, yes, check out Steal the Bacon podcast. Check out every single College Survivor that apparently can come out so quickly. Season 7. And you know what? I'll be watching with a keen eye on that one. Well, catch us next week for episode 15, probably. And get excited. Wow, only 2 episodes left of the season. Can you believe it? I can't. I'm frothing at the mouth, shaking the bars of my enclosure, going, nearly done. 7 years of hell, let me tell you.
Also, sorry, I'd like to address something happening in the comments right now. Yes, this is literally my mother. She is not a super fan calling me mother. This is my mother.
Her name is Erin's mom. What did you think that meant? Look, Jack is mother when she goes. Shelley is in fact a real mother. And happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Good
Do you
job
wanna
at
say
saying
what Erin
that.
got me for Mother's
Oh,
Day?
okay.
I got her a gift.
Yes.
That makes sense. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Get excited for next week where Morgan definitely won't go home. And you have to watch 60 Minutes to know that JS might go home. We'll see if you got to watch the whole episode because something might change. All right. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Bye. Bye.